Hey folks, I'm Mike. Do you hate ads? I hate ads. You know what I like? Patreon.com/Inkdependence. It keeps this blog ad-free. Hello folks and welcome to Inkdependence.com. Today we have an ink from Robert Oster, and as you can see from the desk and my hands, this is going to be sort of a tealy blue sort of color. This is Robert Oster's Frankly Blue. This was made specially by Robert Oster for Federalist Frank of Federalist Pens. They were the first U.S. Distributor of Robert Oster inks. Everybody has them now, and actually I thought this was going to be an exclusive to him, but apparently they're selling it pretty widely. So that's pretty cool. You can get your hands on this at many places, but definitely check out Federalist Pens. They're a pretty newish pen shop, and I really like those guys. So this blue, which you can see all over my hands and such, I don't know what I did, but somehow I got ink everywhere. It happens sometimes. Add a little extra character to the desk. Yep. It looks like this in the bottle. Get a little bit more of a close-up. There you go. Well, now, I've had this ink since the DC show in 2017. That's when this anniversary was. Right there. And he gave me this bottle to check out, and I've been kind of sleeping on this ink. I've used it in a bunch of pens, and I've been using it for a while. I've used up, well, I don't know, this much of the bottle, I suppose, but this bottle holds quite a bit, these do. Well, how many mils are in this thing? 50 mils, so slightly under 2 ounces. All right, so let's put this over here and show you the actual ink on paper. Now, I've had this in a bunch of different pens. As you can see here, we've got a very nice ink swatch. This is an ink that swatches beautifully. There we go. And you can see it's definitely got some red tinges around the edges. You get a little bit of that Robert Oster sheen. Robert Oster has proven himself to be a master of blues and a master of adding sheen to things. I'm not exactly sure how that happens. I don't know the chemistry behind ink, but this seems like a very cool effect. Now, you generally won't see a whole lot of sheen out of this ink, so if you're not a sheen lover, this is going to be fine. There are plenty of people who don't like sheen in their inks, and they think, wow, this Robert Oster stuff is too much. And some of it does have quite a lot of sheen, but this one is pretty mild. You only really see it from this nib, really, and a little bit in some of the other places, but this is rhodia, and you tend to get more sheen on here, at least I do. So let's take a look at some of the pens I had this in. I've got it in 4 right now, which is kind of a lot. The first one is the sheeniest and the biggest nib. This is a Sailor 1911 with a music stub, which is their 2-tine music nib. It is big and wet and stubby. Very nice nib. And I've been enjoying it in here quite a lot because I like it when there's a little bit more ink on the page, you know me. I also have had it in this one, which is a Rotring Newton 600. It's kind of that transitional phase between the old 600 and the Newton. I've had it in this pen for a couple of weeks. This is a Schaefer 440 that my friend Oscar gave me to play with. It's a very cool pen. I really like the inlaid nib on this one. Just uncap this right quick. And that's what the 440 does. It has one of these legacy style nibs. I'm a really big fan of these inlaid nibs. Although I tend to have bad luck with them. This one hasn't started leaking around the inlay or anything, but some of them do. So, you know, watch out for that. And then lastly, I just put it in this one for Audrey, and apparently I've already put it in another Sailor for Audrey, but whatever. So she's going to have this little vanishing point Decimo, or this little Pilot Decimo, with a sort of medium stub on it with Frankly Blue in it. I haven't done any writing samples of this. I literally just inked it up. I'm like, oh, I should give Audrey some of this. And I started looking at my ink book, and she's already got some. So, you know, whatever. So this has been in a variety of different kinds of nibs, vintage, modern, medium, giant, that kind of stuff. I haven't had any real fine nibs except for Audrey's Sailor. So this one does behave pretty well on 20-pound paper. No, I was forgetting something. So here it is on the 20-pound. Right there. As you can see, no bleeding or no feathering and spreading, really. You can see definitely there's a big variation in these kinds of nibs, even though these are both mediums. They're both pretty different mediums. This one's not even close to a medium. It's pretty fat. And then on the back side of the page, you get a little bit of, you get show through from all of it because this is just 20-pound Staples paper. You get a slight bleed, like just a couple of little spots here, but that's from that music stub. And as I said, that thing puts on a lot of ink, so there's no shame in that. It's totally okay to get a little bit of bleed through with a music nib. That's something you gotta expect. All right. On other papers, it also does pretty well. I actually like it quite a lot on the cheaper papers. This is the currently inked book. This is that wheat straw paper that Matt from the Pen Habit uses. And as you can see, it looks pretty good on here. It's not a bad looking ink on this kind of paper. And as I said, I like it on the cheaper papers a little bit better than I do on like the Rhodias and stuff like that. I'm not sure exactly why. Just some inks look a little bit better if they don't soak in, and some look a little better if they do soak in. So this one's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. I like this ink quite a bit actually. Here's that Decimo I was just talking about, and I've just made that swatch. It's nice and rich. Here on this is an ink journal, by the way, ink journal Tomoe River. And then here it is in the Sailor Big Music nib. It actually looks a little bit darker from the Decimo than it does from the Music nib. Maybe it's just putting more ink in one spot. Who knows? Who knows? And then this is the current generation of Inky Fingers notebook, which is still the wheat straw paper that we have in that other one. So it's going to look pretty similar. But I did put different inks or different pens on here. I was not very consistent in putting my inks together in the notebooks this time. But this is that Schaefer 440, which is a little bit of a lighter flow, I suppose, than the Rotring 600. I like the Rotrings because they're a little bit on the wet side for me. And then this one's a little bit darker. So you can definitely see the difference between these two things, even with the same ink on the same paper right next to each other, which I think is really cool. So this ink is going to look very different depending on what kind of nib you put it in. Some inks are more consistent. This one seems to change with the nib quite a lot, which I'm into. And then here are writing samples and that sort of thing. You can definitely see this on the blog at inkdependence.com. Here are some comparisons. These are brief comparisons of things I had sitting on my desk. I will do, after the water test, a long series of coloring card comparisons. So stick around for that if you really are into that kind of thing. So here we go. Frankly Blue up at the top. Underneath that, Robert Oster Fire and Ice, which on this paper is just nothing but sheen. I mean, look at that thing. There's the sheen. It's definitely a lot lighter than the Fire and Ice, and it doesn't have nearly as much sheen. The Fire and Ice is all sheen, basically. Then underneath that, Cairo Soft Snow of O'Hara, which I really like, but it doesn't really go with these. I thought it was going to be more blue than it is, and it's actually a little bit more purple. Closer to the Frankly Blue is this Newler's Azure Main, which is a store exclusive for Osprey pens, and then Ackerman Double Zero, which is a little bit more purple. So I don't really have anything in this range that's inked up at the moment, well, aside from Frankly Blue and a bunch of pens. But we'll see a bunch of contenders in just a minute here. So let's do the water test right quick. Then we'll look at chromatography, and then we'll get out of here. That's our plan. All right, I get some water. There we go. Some water in this thing. I'm using a transfer pipette this time, just because that's what was sitting here. I've been cleaning out pens and such, so I've been using my my main syringes. All right, so here we go. And you can see that it's not exactly waterproof, which I'm not shocked about, but it's not all that much is coming up, which is interesting. So let's go ahead and mop it up right quick. There are other channels that will do longer tests, like 30 minutes in water kind of thing. You can check out the Quink and Bleach site, which I think is really cool, but I just do little splash tests, so need some little variety among bloggers, right? All right, so a lot of this came up. Definitely see quite a bit there. But it does seem like it's still pretty readable. I don't know, this bit up here with the writing, I think it might be, we might have to call this one keep the hell away from water sort of ink. I don't think it's going to stick around very much if you had more than just a few drops. Even then, if I didn't know what this said, maybe it'd be a little bit difficult. So yeah, this one smears around quite a bit and it definitely comes off the page. And this has been on the page for quite a bit. It's definitely dry. There's no question about that. All right, let's take a look at the chromatography right quick. Shunk. There we go. And as you can see, this is a really interesting sort of set of chromatography. This paper will not flatten out. I've been trying to flatten it for a bit, actually. But it just, there's just nothing left here at the bottom, which doesn't surprise me given, what we just saw. And then we have like some purples up here and then greens and blues at the top. This like beautiful line of cerulean across the top. So very complicated ink. I'm not sure what all Robert Oster does when he's putting inks together, but one thing is he adds a lot of different hues. Look at all those hues in there. Super cool. And that one's on my fingernail. That's never coming out. That's great. Then I've got this ink incision over here. It looks awesome. So, inky fingers, whatever. All right. So that's that. Now let's take a look at a bunch of different color samples or samples of different colors. Zoom out a skosh. Get some of my new desk character. All right, so here's Frankly Blue on the coloring card, and even on the coloring card, I didn't get a tremendous amount of sheen. There's just a little bit here and there, a little bit in this sweep through the middle, but that's kind of it. Not a ton. So this is not a very sheeny ink, although there is some sheen. Pretty close to that is Noodler's Blue Steel, which is a pretty cool ink, I think. And then let's see what else is close. What else is closest? Probably this, which is Diatramentus Plum. This one is scented, and if you don't like scented inks, stay the heck away from the Diatramentus ones because they are not messing around with that scent. There's a lot of scent. But you can see it's kind of in between these. Diatramentus Plum has got more of the purpley or rather green teal stuff, and Noodler's Blue Steel is a little bit bluer than Frankly Blue. All right, so let's stick those away. Here are some green variants. This is Private Reserve Blue Suede, and we'll put next to that. This one, which is Diamine Udinil, which I am sure I am murdering the pronunciation there, but that's what happens. You can see that those are very different. Private Reserve Blue Suede has a ton more sheen. When we think of sheen, right now we're thinking of Robert Oster, sometimes those fancy 1670 inks. But this one, man, lots of that on the Private Reserve Blue Suede. I'm a big fan of this ink, actually. It was one of the very first bottles of ink I ever got, so I'm a little partial to it. All right. Let's see. We can also throw down some more, clones that people might know things about. So, Sailor Yamadori, which is a beautiful one. The Copper Pheasant. I love this ink a lot. Mont Blanc Meisterstruck Blue Hour, which is also very cool. I reviewed both of those a while back. They're on the greener side. Here is Pelikan Edelstein Aquamarine and Franklin Christoph Midnight Emerald. Both of these are greens that lean a little bit blue, and you can definitely bring out the blue here with Frankly Blue next to those. Whereas if you put a straight up blue next to it, it looks green. If you put greens next to it, it looks a little bit more blue. I think that's kind of cool. Here is Diatramentus Madame de Pompadour. This is new. I haven't actually even used this ink yet. I only have a sample, and I've only recently gotten it. And there's Robert Oster Blue Denim, which is definitely more green than Frankly Blue, at least to my eye. My denim doesn't look like this. I think he didn't do a great job naming this one, honestly. It's a little bit too green to be blue denim, but that's the way it goes sometimes. What a good denim-y color, man. There are some Diatramentus, there are some Noodlers, which look just so much like denim. And then here's one that's a mix. It's actually very close. When the Anderson Pens did their bloggers, I forget what they called it. Yeah, it was anyway a kind of tournament where we mixed up Sailor Storia inks. This was the one that I ended up making. Audrey and I put this one together, and this is what it looks like in a bottle. It's kind of a, I've kept mixing this actually because it's my favorite mix of these two inks. And I only got second place, but hey, second place. And it looks a lot like Frankly Blue. You even get a little bit of sheen here, which is not particularly common with those Storia inks, which you mix those together, you get a little bit of sheen. This is 1 part Night Blue and 1 part Balloon Green, just a 1-to-1 mix. I called it Night Balloon because I'm super original, but this is one that I keep mixing up and I keep using because it looks dope, and it's pretty close to this Frankly Blue. Now, it is a real expensive way to get close to Frankly Blue, which you can get for, I forget what the price of these is now, like $17 or something like that maybe. This one is probably twice that because you have to buy 2 bottles of ink, but these Storia inks mix beautifully, and I definitely recommend checking those out if you want to mix stuff up, because you can end up with really cool stuff like this from fairly banal kinds of base colors. So don't just get 1 bottle of Storia, at least get a couple, and I'd say these are good ones to go for. All right, so this has been, let's put some of this stuff back in the frame. This has been Robert Oster's Frankly Blue. Find this over at Federalist Pens. Tell him I said hi, and enjoy using this slightly sheeny, slightly greenish blue that is sort of commemorating the very first vendor in the U.S. for Robert Oster. So welcome to the U.S., Robert Oster. I'm glad that you've been here for a year. You've given us a zillion cool inks, and y'all go welcome Federalist Pens to the community. They've been around for a couple of years, but let's help them grow strong and get awesome. All right, y'all, that's it. Peace out. But it seems like, I better clean that up or it's going to be a mess. It seems like it, now it looks like I have an ink incision. That's fun. Anyway, so this is what the bottle looks like and all that. Oh, there's that ink is coming from. Son of a... today we have a blue ink. It is called, oh my goodness, where is this ink coming from? It is called. Oh my goodness.